UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Welcome to Franchise Fatigue, the little podcast on the United Federation of Podcast Network, where your hosts go through all the movies, all the remakes, all the sequels in a film franchise, and we talk about them for you, and we compare them against each other, and then we rank them in our recap episodes, which is what we're doing for you tonight. And tonight, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the podcast, Jaws the recap. And joining me, I couldn't do it without him, because, he's got just the nicest smile with all those glistening, sharp teeth. Zach Moore.
Don't forget I have doll's eyes.
Doll's eyes? I don't understand the reference.
Like a doll's eyes. That's when Quint's talking about what the shark looks like, But anyway, yes, I have great eyes and great teeth. Zach Moore here. Happy to be with you, Brandon, to recap the Jaws franchise. So, hey, what a journey. What a fall from grace this franchise has been, right?
Yes, and we've actually had some time to peruse on it and think about it and rehash it in our minds.
I don't think it's really changed our opinion of the of the movies.
Really?
Though.
I completely re-ranked it. I upended the whole thing.
Are you serious?
No, I'm not serious at all.
See, in a franchise like this, there's really not much space for moving around in your rankings, frankly. With something more like, Mission Impossible or even the Halloween movies, right? But when there's only 4 and there's such a clear decline in quality, there's really only a couple spaces that you can switch around, but we'll get there. So I guess, Brandon, the first question is, how would you rank the Jaws movies?
1, 2, 4, 3.
Same here. 1, 2, 4, 3. I know that's probably a hot take for people, but really, though, if you just watch them all, the 3 is the one that sticks out. First of all, it doesn't really fit with the rest, and it's just the worst one. It just really is. There's no getting around it.
Yeah, it's kind of so strange because it feels like it doesn't fit because I think it's because it's the different location. Now I understand Jaws: The Revenge is a different location as well, but it starts off on Amity Island.
Well,
right?
you're following the Brody family in Amity Island.
Yeah.
And then Jaws 3 is like, oh, look, it's Mike and Sean Brody, just because their names happen to be Mike and Sean Brody, and they say, oh, yeah, when we were kids, had some shark stuff happen. Like, that's the only... Oh, and there's a big shark in it. But that could have been called The Meg or Deep Blue Sea, right? It could have been an interchangeable shark movie. And you would be like, oh, yeah, that movie where that shark is in a SeaWorld? Yeah. And that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just been some one-off movie in the 80s. The only reason it has any kind of staying power, if it even does, is because it's connected to the Jaws franchise. And then you get back to Jaws: The Revenge. You have returning actors and characters, and it feels like even though it's way worse than even the first 2, it feels like a natural continuation of those. And like we were saying with John Mills, it is kind of similar to the Superman franchise, where Superman 3 very different. Although not as different as Jaws 3, and then they kind of try and get back to basics for Superman 4, and there is a more natural line, like Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor. He's in Superman 1, 2, and 4. Margot Kidder's Lois Lane plays a prominent role in 1, 2, and 4. She's in 2 scenes in 3 at the beginning and the end of his bookends. So anyway, it's interesting how those franchises kind of correlate, and this is how this one works out. So yeah, I there's only 2 ways to rank this franchise. It's the way we just did, 1, 2, 4, 3, or the probably, more traditional, if you will, ranking 1, 2, 3, 4,
1, 2,
where
3,
they
4.
just keep getting worse. But I defy you to find anybody out there who would rank them any other way.
Yeah, other than those 2, yeah, I don't think so. It's interesting. It's almost like they have 2 successful movies in a franchise, because you mentioned Halloween, because you mentioned Superman. They have 2 successful movies, and they're like, we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves, so let's do something different. They do something different, and people don't like it, so they're like, well, we should go back to the formula. You know? So it's almost like it's like a misstep by the studio that happens multiple times. Like I can't think of anything else off the top of my head that would do this. I mean, like I do mention Children of the Corn 4, you know, frequently, and that is one that it is completely different than the rest of them. You know, I've only seen Children of the Corn 5 and 6 like once or twice each, you know, so I can't quite remember those ones, but yeah, I don't know. Like, do you know of any other series that might have that number 3 misstep?
Well, I'm trying to think. And horror franchises are kind of their own breed, you know?
Yeah, because like let's look at some big ones here. Like Nightmare on Elm Street 3. You know, is considered by many to be like the second best.
Well, yeah, it's more of a return to form after the weird second one. So
I like the second one a lot. I think the second one's really good. But Friday the 13th Part 3, while it may not be good, it is basically the same formula.
And it's very important because it introduced the hockey mask, which a lot of people don't realize. They think it came
yes, it does change up the format, yes. So, I don't know. Like, I can't think of anything else where they make a misstep on 3 and then return to form on 4. So, you know, Halloween, Superman, Jaws, that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, Star Trek, every movie is so different, you know. They all kind of have their own identity. There's not really a formula. So, yeah. This is the 80s, man. It was a crazy time for movies. But I guess all that to say, franchise-wise, then, do you have a favorite kill or death in the Jaws franchise, and what would that be?
Okay, this is tough because, you know, like, there's some really good ones in each of them. Like, I really like the banana boat kill in Jaws the Revenge.
Yeah, it really is good.
It is a good one. Just for sheer lunacy, I love the shark jumping into the plane, or the helicopter in Jaws 2. You know, just because it's sheer lunacy. But honestly, I think for effect, I'd probably have to say my favorite one is from the first one, and it's the one where they're in the pond and the leg comes down. You know, just because that scene is so shocking when you see it, because they pan down and you don't realize the leg has been severed. Right. And then it shows it's severed, and it looks so realistic. So I would probably have to say whoever that guy was in the pond, some random dude in the pond. So
pond guy.
But I mean, like, the opening one with the nude swimmer in Jaws is so amazing as well.
Right.
So I don't know, but I'd probably give it to the one with the leg in the first Jaws, just because it really is shocking when you see it.
Yeah, for me, I would have to go with Quint's death, because I really do think it's one of the most visceral and just disturbing deaths in cinema. Really, I mean, that's no exaggeration, because it's just, you know what his worst fear is, it's sharks, and you see the guy being eaten alive by a shark, blood is coming out of his mouth, he's hacking away. Interesting to note that our friend Dan Davison recently acquired a Funko Pop of this scene. So it's like, what a world we live in when one of the most horrific deaths in cinema history can be immortalized in a fun and adorable Funko Pop, because it's the shark and Quint, and it's like there's like blood and he has the machete. I'm like, who are these for? The Funko Pops. But anyways, it is adorable. As I commented to him, if it's either horribly adorable or adorably horrible, I'm not sure which, but it is a nice collector's item. But yeah, that's the one that sticks to me. Like, that's the kind of thing that will haunt your dreams, the Quint's death.
It's ad horrible.
It's ad horrible. Yes, very good. Very good. And you know, I guess this will be a question only for the first film, because I think those are your real selections, but who's your favorite character in all these Jaws movies?
Oh, man, that is so tough.
Feel free to pick one from 2, 3, and 4, but I assume it's going to come back to the big 3 from Jaws 1, which we kind of already answered in our first Jaws. So,
yeah, I think so. No, it's definitely Michael Caine. Oh. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's probably got to be. Why can't I remember the name right now? Richard Dreyfuss's character.
Hooper.
I liked Hooper a lot. I think he was a good character. I liked his interaction with people. So Hooper would definitely be my favorite character from the whole franchise for sure. And that's too bad we didn't see him again. I mean, like, they talked him on the phone in the second one, and you know, you'd mentioned that they kind of wanted him in the fourth one, but yeah, I think he's good.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, it's got to be Brody still for me. He's just the everyman hero. Roy Scheider is he's a lovable everyman hero, and that's what he's supposed to be, and he encompasses that perfectly, and you really feel his struggle against, like, people questioning him and the decisions he's making, and just fighting against all these ridiculous obstacles because he knows what is going on and what needs to be done. And it's just the small town politics, all that stuff. He deals with such small town BS and these epic things like giant great white sharks, and it's great. And you mentioning Hooper, and thinking about what we were talking about with franchises, they could have gone the Jurassic Park route with, like, all right, we used Brody in the second one. Let's bring Hooper back for Jaws 3 and have him be, like, in Antarctica.
No, they could have.
And he encountered another. That would have been another way to tie it in. But at that point, Spielberg is long gone from the franchise. I don't think that was even on the table to even get Richard Dreyfuss, because his star continued to rise as the 80s went by. So I don't think he's coming back for Jaws 3. But just thinking about what we were talking about, and mentioning Hooper and not seeing it again, that would have been a way, in hindsight, to still connect it to the first movie, but still be different.
I have a question for you that I've actually been mulling over in my mind since we've had our discussion on Jaws: The Revenge. And while our next question for this is always going to be, where do we want the franchise to go? Before we get to that question, I want to ask you, Jaws: The Revenge, basically exactly the same as it is, except it's Sheriff Brody that dies in the opening scene. Better or worse, that movie?
I mean, it would have been nice to see him again, but then do you want to see him again just to be offed in that way? Now, when you started asking that question, I thought you were going to say Jaws: The Revenge, except it's Sheriff Brody instead of his wife.
No. I would have liked. I think I would have liked it if he died in that. If they like Halloween Resurrection this movie, right?
Yeah. No. Exactly. That's exactly what my mind went when you said that. It would have felt a lot more connective tissue because and you can tell it's left over in the script. Or like, yeah, he was kind of the one that was supposed. Oh, that father killed him. Yeah, he died from a heart attack. He died from the stress of the shark. It's like, all right, now you're stretching it. Yeah, it definitely would have been something, but I think it ultimately would have been underwhelming because whenever you bring back these fan favorite characters and actors and just immediately kill them off, I mean, it throws you for a loop, but at the same time, like, oh well, but I guess I say that, but they killed him off screen they killed him off screen in dialogue, right?
Right.
In the movie as is, so at least we get him for 2 or 3 more scenes, and instead of that ridiculous picture we have of him for 5 minutes straight when that lady's on the phone. So it's not like it would have seriously improved the movie, but it would have improved the franchise, I guess.
Cool. Okay. It was just a thought. I've been mulling it over, and I'm like, what? Once you told me that, I'm like, that makes so much sense.
Right.
That's what they were writing. That it would have been him that died, and to me that makes the revenge motivation of the shark way better.
I agree.
So I think I personally think it would have made the movie better. But Zach, while we both said that it was definitely fatigued after Jaws 3 and 4, and where do we want this to go if it were to come back? What would we want to do? What would we want to see?
Well, today, what is still possible? Okay.
Because I know there's only, to me, there's only one answer that I think.
Okay, well, I think there's a couple of ways you could do it, right? And you could still do the same story, but it would depend on what kind of continuity you want. You got to have Richard Dreyfuss back starring as Hooper, right? And that you build that film around him. I don't know what you call it, but you don't want to call it, you're certainly not going to call it Jaws 5. You're going to call it, the Jaws Resurrection, Jaws Requiem, Jaws The Return, right? These are the titles that exist in the world today with these sequels, these years later sequels. You could have you could do a Halloween thing, right? It's a direct sequel to the first movie and ignore everything else. Or the other stuff, Hooper was it didn't affect him anyway, so you could say these things still happen